Good morning, everyone. Oh, here we are. Are we almost live now? Or are we? We are live, just to let you know. So, I'd like to start the meeting, if that's okay. So, I'd like to, first of all, to begin by welcoming those members of the public and the press who have joined us today at New Shire Hall, and also those who are watching the meeting on our live stream. Apologies for the slight delay. The Combined Authority allows filming and photography at its public meetings, so please feel free to take pictures and tweet during the meeting. Can I ask, though, that everyone present turns their mobile phones to silent or vibrate whilst the meeting is taking place? The meeting room has been arranged to comply with public health guidance on COVID safety. On their advice, committee members and officers will remove face coverings at the start of the meeting and replace them at the end. This is to minimise the number of hand-to-face contacts. Could I ask members of the public and press to keep their masks on? I would remind members and officers that the meeting will be recorded. I'd also like to particularly welcome Councillor Ian Bovingdon, representing East Cambridgeshire District Council, who was taken over from Councillor Josh Schumann. I would also like to thank Councillor Schumann for his contribution to the committee. Welcome. So part one are governance items, and after my welcome, I would like the Democratic Services Officer to report any apologies for absence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've received apologies from Councillor Scott. Councillor Katie Thornborough is substituting for her.
Thank you very much. Does any member wish to declare a disclosable pecuniary interest or non-statutory disclosable interest? I can see no indications, so with that in mind, I'll move on to item 1.2, which is the approval of the minutes of the meeting on the 8th of September 2021. We are being asked to confirm these as an accurate record. If any member wishes to raise a question on the accuracy of the minutes only, can you indicate that now? Councillor Gough.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Page 6, halfway down, I think the expression is putting the cart before the horse.
All right, we're going back in time, are we?
Not the horse before the cart.
Okay, innovation at the start of the. I'm sure we can find that and correct as needs be. Thank you for your attention to detail. So with no other interjections, objections, so I'll take those minutes as approved with the required correction, and we'll now move to the action log, which shows the action from the last meeting has been completed. Do the committee have any comments on the Combined Authority forward plan? And just for the record, we have received a question about the forward plan from Overview and Scrutiny. So can I just take any comments? Oh, Councillor Niche.
Thank you, Chair. It's just, I know it's on the forward plan. I am aware of why, but it says on items 16 and 17 that we would have had the 141 and St Ives Strategic Outline business case. And it has obviously been delayed. And I know it was brought up in board as well about the comments.
It was, and I know there was, sorry, Councillor Niche. I'm just looking particularly for Mehmet, who I know a lot of this was kind of looked into, and there's lots of information about shared information and where it's all going. So do you want to come in on it? If you press that button there.
Morning all. I am aware, and I attended a meeting with Huntingdonshire District Council officers last week. There is technical information that was just being finalised, and in terms of the governance, we need that finalised before we can publish, and that's the delay. Simply, it's I don't think there's anything more than simple timing challenge.
No, thank you for that. I'm aware there is a meeting this week as well for the members, but I'd just like to remind the Mayor, of course, that it's the Combined Authority meeting that happens to be chaired by myself. And of course, it goes back to the River Porter comments that were made, which I understand we still haven't had a comment back from you about the fact that it was HDC that were delaying the process for the 141 and the St Ives Outline business case. So just like to remind the mayor that obviously there were some points put in there which were inaccurate. I know he was going to try and get them corrected.
So the comms team were working with the kind of representation that was in the River Porter, which I acknowledge was unclear. And Mehmet, I know that was one thing that we talked about after the board meeting in regards to what had been written in the River Porter local newsletter. Was there anything else that you wanted to comment about that? Because I know there's a sort of desire to clear it up. Is it turned on at the side? Is it on?
Can
It's
you hear
on.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent. Thank you. In terms of responding to the River Porter, providing a response, we haven't provided anything yet in detail yet, but in terms of, obviously we've got all these meetings coming up, as you said, Councillor Niche, in terms of our meetings, one of them being this week and one next week. So in terms of what sort of response would you like?
Come in there. We will sort out with our comms team, working out what needs to go out appropriately. And it's an ongoing action. I will ask our comms team to clarify and liaison with the River Porter as well.
I think, Mayor, if I go back, it is important we do, because obviously it was clearly stated that it was at Hunting District Council that were delaying everything. Now, as chair, I chair it for the combined authority, not the district council. And it's just sort of the process that's been put forward. Doesn't blame
no,
council
I
today.
understand. I understand the sort of the direction of the question, and we need to clarify that from a point of view of making sure it's a clear message goes out as to the process of consultation and who's taking responsibility for it. I understand that. We'll just this will be action for us to do to clarify that what we've done within transport, and then make sure our comms team clarifies that. Thank you. Sorry. So as I say, if there's no other, Councillor Schuyler.
See if it works. Yes. Just a very quick one on number 20, the action log. Last time, an officer said that they would tell me what the percentage of the Cambridge buses would then be electric after the introduction of the zebra. This follows a question from a constituent. So if nobody has the answer to hand, that's fine. We can get back to it later.
I think obviously, thank you for focusing on some positive news from the last 2 weeks. The obviously announcement from funding coming from central government about the introduction of 30 zero emission buses. We were obviously delighted to be part of that going forward. But in answer to your question, I will hand over to Roland to see if he can clarify where we are with that.
Firstly, my apologies for not getting you a direct answer. I'm happy to speak in vague terms, in terms of percentages at this point, but we've been successful with our zebra emissions application, which is fantastic news. And there's a collaborative delivery that's going to happen between ourselves, Greater Cambridge Partnership, Cambridgeshire County Council, South Cambridgeshire District Council, and an operator. There will be a procurement process that needs to be actioned to enable that to deliver. But the proposal was for 30 buses. Now, in terms of Cambridge, that's quite a significant percentage, but I will get you the exact percentage. Across our whole network at the moment, we've got 350 buses across our region. So it represents something like 9% of our regional amount. But I will do the numbers and share them with this committee following today. What I would say is it's the start. It's the first step of our ambition for electrification of the bus network. There is a commitment that has been discussed from the Independent Climate Commission challenge of percentages of our bus services by 2025 and 2030, and we will have to look at how we can do that. But it's the first positive step. It will be a significant number, therefore, for Cambridge, as it's 9% roughly for our whole region.
Yeah, if you want to come back, yeah.
Just, yeah, very quickly, Mayor. I understand that the first buses to be replaced will be the park and ride ones, and then those buses will then replace some of the older stock. And so, the percentage that will be zero emission is not the whole picture, obviously. Then we can calculate what the lower level of pollutants will be.
Yeah, if you want to go back, Roland.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Councillor Shaler, thank you. The 30 buses that are proposed to be removed are actually some of the better buses in the fleet currently. The routes that were chosen were routes because they are the routes that go through the heart of the city, and the pollution challenge in the city is real, and this is a significant way of positively impacting that. It's not just the park and ride, there's the City 2 route as well, which already has a trial bus, electric bus on it from GCP funding, and that needs to be recognised too. And this is an extension of that, etc. It's also about making sure the infrastructure is in place at the depot, and also we've proposed opportunity charging at Babram, which may be needed to keep the buses working through the winter periods when there's heavier load, may not, but it's a safety zone to have there. But equally, the proposal is that charging point could be a charging point that is accessible for other operators like coach operators or whatever. So the 30 buses that come down will replace the most polluting 30 buses in the fleet. That is the proposal. So there is a significant additional benefit, as you say, and I'll see whether we can get that calculated through the minds of our supply chain that are much more clever at those sort of things than I.
Okay. Right, so just want to move on to, there was a specific question about the forward plan from overview and scrutiny, which was, could the forward plan be refreshed with evidence of need to do this in next Monday's meeting, where the majority of items that were to be discussed have been deferred? And the response is that the forward plan is refreshed monthly to ensure sufficient notice of decisions being taken. I will ask the head of transport, Roland Potter, to comment on the deferred reports.
The reason for the deferring of the reports is again making sure that we've got the accurate data and the publishable documents sufficiently in place for publication at committee and board, rather than missing out this committee and going straight to board. And there's governance timing around that, and we're tightening up our governance. It's as simple as that, and ensuring that the documents that come forward are in a fully complete state with the necessary information to back it up. And I would hope that this committee would support that intent.
Okay, thank you, Roland. So we've not received any public questions, but we have received 2 further questions from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee that I will take under the relevant agenda item. So we're now ready to move on to the part of the agenda which is described as delivery. And on this, we have received 2 questions from Overview and Scrutiny on this item. Question 1 is in the performance report. There would appear to be the likelihood of significant underspends. Will this money be lost? And question 2 is in the performance dashboard. In some cases, the data seems significantly out of date. What is the benefit of presenting this? And can we be reassured that the new chief executive will review the data that is circulated? For these responses, I would now ask Rob Emery, Deputy S71 Officer, to introduce this report.
I believe Rob is happy to defer to me now.
Oh, sorry, I will even defer to Roland at my left hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. In the performance report, there is definitely a risk of underspend, and that's being reported as such, as it should be if it's been identified, and that proves that the monitoring and the performance monitoring is working and accurate. The question here for me is, will this money be lost? As head of transport, I would say there are a number of reasons potentially for underspend, and they can be slippage of program, they can be cost efficiencies, and they can also be one of the things that we report risk within our projects. We report that within the figure, but we don't separate it out. And of course, if you've got a risk factor that then doesn't materialize, you've got a efficiency effectively, and we need to look at how we report that differently, and we are doing that. So the question of whether the money will be lost, no, absolutely not. If there's a slippage in programme, that will be reported in a relevant committee and board with a paper. If there's when the project comes to an end, it will go through the gateway process at this committee and at board as to whether it then proceeds forward to the next stage. And in some of the underspend, it will be subject to approval monies that haven't yet got to be approved through a gateway process. So if we took the A141 and St Ives, for instance, I believe there's subject to approval monies within there that won't necessarily have been spent. So we could look at that as potentially as a programme slippage. We'll have to look at the detail of that when we bring the reports to. But the question at that gateway point would be, are we approving the future spend within it? So my argument will be that if it's a programme, it will come to a gateway. We then decide as a committee whether it goes forward or not, and that's the normal process. If there's subject to approval monies, they will more likely be approved to roll forward to a future year, and that would be a discussion of the committee and the boards accordingly within the MTFP review. And if there are efficiencies, I've already come to this committee in September stating that any efficiencies I could find within Transforming Cities Fund, for instance, I would propose that they will look to be spent on sustainable programmes of work, such as match funding, cycling, walking, looking at road improvements where bus journey times could be improved, and there's benefits to the bus services and improving that. And also then potentially for match funding the zebra emissions bid that we've got, and looking to do future zebra emission bus, because we've got that rollout of needing to do the whole fleet of 350 buses. So there's a number of elements within this that could be explained for underspend, and that will come through in the MTFP review that's happening currently. Slippages will be discussed and agreed or not. Gateways for subject to approval funds for next stage will be agreed or not at committees when the papers come forward, and efficiencies will be argued for sustainable projects, and that will again go through the MTFP prioritisation process. I hope that.
I mean, obviously that answers some of the questions. Do we need to go through the report now? I'm happy with those. Yeah. Do you want to go into the report now? I'm happy with it, and I think there's stuff that's going to come out in the report as well. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Roland. So this is your regular financial and performance report, and hello to the committee. I don't think you've met me before. I'm the Deputy Chief Finance Officer for the Combined Authority. There's been a slight tweak to the presentation in the tables that you may be familiar with, which is just the final column on the right. We've switched how variances are displayed. So for forecasting an underspend, that's now going to appear as a negative figure, whereas previously it was positive. That's just to bring it in line with reporting to the other committees in the Combined Authority Board. Purely presentational, no change to any project or delivery. So with that, I'll get into the meat of it. There's a few areas to bring to your attention on the revenue programme. Bus service implementation, it's got quite a large budget, 1.7 million to spend, but with very little spend to the end of August. That's a deliberate, conscious choice and reflects the fact that our bus service improvement plan was only recently submitted to DFT. That funding is being held back to contribute to the implementation of any plans that come out of that. The CAM at the October meeting of the CA board, they formally approved the secession of the programme. So there's no revenue spend expected at all on that programme. The local transport and connectivity plan, this is really showing the historic nature of the financial data. The programme is happening, it's ongoing, it's being developed as we speak. There's no spend reported in this report, but that's due to them being August outturn figures. Spend has incurred to date, we have paid invoices, and it's still on track for delivery. And then the final one to highlight is passenger transport figures. There's two fairly large ones in there, which is supported bus services and concessionary fares. They're both showing about a third of the budget for the year spent to date, but that is again on profile because we pay our bus service operators a month in arrears. So August outturn figures are only showing 4 months of the year spend. So I just wanted to allay any concerns on those big budget lines that may at first appear to be underspent given where we are in November today. On the capital side, there are 3 projects that are showing forecast variances of 250k or higher. The A10, and this is due, as it says in the report, to a delay in the funding decision from DfT. We've subsequently had that. So they've given us 2 million to match to our own 2 million. We're now developing and finding a way forward with the County Council with the next gateway process with DfT in September 2022. I will not bother talking about Neam Parkway Junction 15 as there's an item on this agenda that will go into it in far more detail than I'd be able to give. And then the other item is the CAM, which, as I mentioned, has been ceased. There is some spend showing on there. That's an error, so please accept my apologies for that. The spend showing on the business case delivery line there is actually spend of One CAM Limited and will be recharged to the company. There's been no spend on business case development at all. And following the board decision, there will not be any spend on that. In terms of the performance dashboard, there's 2 projects that are currently rated amber. One is the CAM, which will subsequently be moved to, I'm not sure if it will be classed as complete or ceased, but that will be reflected. And the other is the A10 for the aforementioned reasons. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Rob. Would any members of the committee wishing to ask a question or make a comment, please do so now. Councillor Thornborough.
I'm very pleased to hear about the local transport plan being on track because it's such a critical for Cambridge in the greater Cambridge area. It's really critical. I think potentially we've got an amazing local plan coming forward, and it could transform all local plans in the country. We've got a lot of interest in it, but it's completely dependent on a really good local transport plan and how we fit in with our neighbours in Huntingdon and Fenland and everywhere. So I'm pleased to hear that's coming on well. I'm also very pleased in the report about the Soham station being delivered ahead of schedule. I think that's a great project, and I hope that further stations will come forward like the Wisbech station. I'm really disappointed that Haverhill, the possible line to Haverhill didn't get through the last funding review, and I hope that we maybe could support that coming through in the future. Perhaps when Soham station is open, we could all go there for a photo shoot, perhaps. I think that was my main point. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thornborough. Lots of positivity. Does anybody else want to make any further comments? Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question, if I may, on regarding Wisbech Rail. I know comments have been made, as I understand it, in the press. I just wonder whether we could have some clarification on what the way forward is, or what discussions there are still going to be about Wisbech Rail. Thank you.
Well, I can make a little bit of a comment about it. I think probably around the table we're all in agreement that Wisbech needs to have improved connectivity, particularly with other market towns, but actually with the whole of the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough region. I'm well aware a case has been made with Network Rail and lots of development about the idea of a rail link. That is something I am absolutely supportive of, and I'm hoping for it to be developed further. I don't know if, you know, it's certainly something that's in the planning of the combined authority going forward. I'll maybe ask my transport lead to give some further information about it.
I think, first of all, let's say I've been very strongly committed to Wisbech Rail and the connectivity of Wisbech to the main railway line for a number of years now, and that commitment remains. We've had a slight delay in terms of the reporting because we're expecting a report back from Network Rail in relation to the review of the business case that we'd put in place. And if you remember when we did that business case, when we started it, we didn't have that support. We gained that support. We're working closely with Network Rail, which is really positive thing. That report is due this month, but it wasn't due in time to be able to come to board. And we would like to come through the committee as well. And it was one of the things about talking about delay. It's about the process of governance to get it right, because this committee is recognised as important in that process. So we're expecting the report to come through, be revised internally, and then presented in January. What I would say is that whatever the proposals and solutions that come forward in that January report, I, with the Mayor here, are very conscious of something of an accelerated pace needs to happen. And so that will be, I'm sure, the intent of the report, that it comes with a report that makes recommendations and a proposed solution that we would propose would be done at pace.
Thank you. I'm really pleased that it's still very much on the radar, and that there is still a commitment there to process this forward. Thank you.
Yeah. I think I'd also like to add, obviously, for those, you know, I'm sure you're in contact with your leaders. You know, we are going through a process of looking at the medium-term financial plan and also about projects of prioritization. I would also like to kind of make it clear that in the 6 months I've been doing the job of mayor and leading the combined authority, I've really tried to make sure that the links with Network Rail have been built on. I would acknowledge it's a success story around Soham Station. I think there's more that can be done by collaborative working with Network Rail. I'm particularly keen to ensure that as a priority that we should also be looking at the Ely area capacity enhancements. And for me, I'm hoping that the board will agree with that, my own personal point of view. Do you want to come in?
Thank you, Mayor. Two questions. One, firstly, from my leader, is that the vision as described in the consultation documents and the consultation documents were not presented to the board to agree. Just wondering why that wasn't done. And my second question, which is for myself, is as a member of Soham, I'm delighted to see Soham railway station open. I'd just like to ask a question about the Snowwell Loop, if I can get an update on that and the timings, because that effectively is phase 2 of the expansion.
Do you want to come in with maybe the Snailwell Loop, and then I don't know if you also want to do the first question, because I might need a point of clarity about that. So,
Soham Station, big thumbs up. I'm very proud to have been a part of that progression and the success. I think we'll be opening very soon. And in fact, 2 of my team and somebody from Business and Skills actually went out on a site visit on Friday on it, and it's coming on at great pace. Snowwell Loop is an interesting point, and it's something that we have discussed previously, and it has been put forward for bid, and so it is something in the discussion that's happening at leader level. There's a number of things in relation to Soham. There's the double tracking. There was the second platform that needs to be done, and we will continue to engage with Network Rail to enthuse for that double tracking to happen between Soham and Ely, so that the second platform can happen. Equally, the Snailwell Loop we see as important as building resilience for the network as well as connectivity for the network. It's something that also Suffolk are very keen for us to be engaged with as well, because it's very close to that strange loop of Newmarket being with them. So it's certainly something that I will continue to try and find a solution as to how we get it into the governance process, and it will be in the bidding process. In terms of vision, I hate to put Tim on the spot, but it might be.
Yeah, maybe if Tim comes in, if you want to kind of, I mean, I think it's important to, a lot of things are coming to a head at the time, rightly so. I appreciate there's been a change in terms of leadership at the start of May. We're half a year down the line, and I'm as keen as anything to make sure that the kind of direction around not just the combined authority, but the transport committee's work, it has changed. And I've been really pleased working with my colleagues on my left here and over here. You know, we've now got an LTCP out and getting good engagement, and I think it is responding. And you know what we find out, bearing in mind how things have changed over the last 18 months in regard to the COVID pandemic, recognizing how maybe an absolute focus on active travel needs to be brought much further to the front of a transport, a statutory transport plan. But not wanting to take Tim's thunder away, I'll hand over to him, and I'll happily come back about the vision in a while.
Just with regards to vision and the development of the soft launch material, all of that was taken through various committees and spoken to the leaders, etc. So we went through the leaders' strategy meetings. All the leaders heard it as a collective there. Also went to the Growth and Mission Programme Board, and also we engaged with all the leaders, and we invited TIC members to meetings with each of the constituent councils. So we specifically with regard to the East Cam District Council, we met with Councillor Bailey around the vision there, and we took on board her points. And also, for example, we have updated some of the themes following feedback we've had from leaders and from Transport and Infrastructure Committee members. And then this is a part of an engagement piece. So going forward for the next 4 weeks, we've got, well, next 3 weeks as it is, with the public engagement, we're trying to engage with the constituent councils, again, an individual basis, and again, as a collective, we're trying to get a meeting in the diary to further flesh out some of the vision work and also some of the priority going forward. So I think we tabled it at various forums. It might not have been done at board, and that, I know that was your specific point, Councillor, but they were tabled at other forums as well.
Are you happy with that? Do you want to come back on that?
No, I'm happy, Mayor, with that. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Shiler, if you want to come in.
Thank you, Mayor. Back to Wisbech, something came up in the in a county committee last week about access across the Nene for cycling in regards to parents having to drive their kids to school. And I wonder if this could be something that this committee would be interested in terms of rail connectivity and then forward connectivity within Wisbech for active transport. It's slightly off topic, but maybe connected.
Looking to my left, Roland has nodded. He wants to take that on, so that by all means.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Shaler. Let's be clear, I'm making it a prerequisite of all of my team members on all projects to consider LTN 120 and gear changes our policy documents in line with government. It creates challenges in transition when you're using historic projects and you're trying to get them redesigned to a standard that you're now moving forwards, but those are the challenges. What I would say is that I think every project that we engage with, whether it be with Highways England, whether it be with ourselves, whether it be with our highways authorities, whether it be with Network Rail, should have segregated cycling walking as a consideration within it, and should therefore promote the sustainable options. There are those, so if we took Wisbech Rail, for instance, I would like to see a segregating the cycling and walking line alongside that, because it would be a great opportunity to construct that at the same time. And there will be those that want to use whatever model of transport that we have, and there'll be those that want to cycle, and there'll be those that want to walk. And of course, there would be villages along the route that may not have access to the mode of transport, but would benefit from a cycling and walking route that's more direct. So I welcome working very much with officers at Cambridgeshire County Council and Peterborough City Council to look at developing ideas alongside any of these projects. And I would hope that this committee would support that.
Councillor Thornborough.
Apologies about coming back again. few things, just LTN 120. That document came out from the government in June 2020, and in Cambridge City, we now use it, the planning committees use it as the most up-to-date guidance on walking and cycling, and we refer to that, and that is what, yeah, we asked that it's actually conditioned that all those details are upheld, which is very good. I just, with your good relationship with Network Rail, I wonder if you could assist with getting the Waterbeach station progressing. It's really critical for the development of Waterbeach, and I think you have an influence. I've heard lots of things about why it's been delayed, but I just hope that you can assist in unlocking it and getting that going forward. Also, you referred to the Ely area capacity enhancement. It's quite a comprehensive document, but some of the crossings are not included in, and we have residents in Cambridge who are very concerned about the Fen Road crossing, which it doesn't refer to. So the city in our response will point this out. And if you could support looking at all of the crossings, not just that one, and urging Network Rail to deal with them rather than putting it off into the future, that would be great. My last point is construction costs and labour costs are struggling because mainly we have a lot of trades have there's been a loss of labour, and in Cambridge I'm hearing from some of the big contractors that they're really struggling, and they're going to keep going until spring, but it will become a major crisis. And everybody needs to ask the government that they do allow more visas for critical trades in construction. I don't know if you have a voice and can urge that, because it's going to have an impact on the infrastructure delivery as well as housing delivery.
I think we do have a voice, and just for reassurance, I absolutely would like to see a meaningful and high quality development of a Waterbeach train station about connectivity, but it is a little bit unclear at the moment, and that's over many factors. If I get that, Roland, give an update as to where we are, but it's not through want of a lot of support from the Mayor.
There's a number of complexities, Councillor Thornborough, which you raised there. What I can say is that I have regular meetings with the representatives of Cambridgeshire County Council and Greater Cambridgeshire Partnership now, and whereas we have possibly not been as close to Waterbeach Station as perhaps some may wanted us to have been, it is definitely something that I'll bring up in those discussions, and we'll look at the challenges. There are complexities with regards to liabilities and responsibilities of a developer, as well as Network Rail, as well as etc. So there's a bit of a knot to untie, I think, but I will take the challenge, and I will engage, and I will discuss, and I'll see what the possibility of the possible is. In terms of Fen Road and the crossings, and in terms of Ely, let me just be clear. We are absolutely supportive of improvements at Ely North, Ely area capacity enhancements, and we were originally a funder. We're no longer a funder, and that's why it doesn't appear on our reporting. And this is something that's been challenged to me by others. It's not that we're not interested or not involved because it's not on our reporting. It's not on our reporting because we're not funding it. I am very much engaged with Network Rail. I do try and influence, but they are funded by DfT, and there are certain rules within the modelling that they do, which makes them consider elements. Fen Road is one where, although there is proposed development, there isn't committed development, and therefore that makes challenge for their modelling, but I will reference it to them. Equally, Queen Adelaide and the businesses and residents of there's always been great concern, and we have always stood firm of saying that we protect that environment and we will continue to try and influence and argument the protection of that environment, and that remains the case. There is an engagement out currently, and I would encourage everybody to make their voice heard. That is the point of consultations and engagements, and we will equally do a response, I'm sure. So in terms of construction costs and labour costs, yes, it's a very real concern. And it would be really good if we were able to accelerate any of our programs to get into construction to help the construction industry. But we've got to work clever and smart with our engagements, and probably more collaboratively, and look at consortiums of organisations rather than single organisation deliverers, so that construction companies can spread their risk as well as spread their profit. I think one of the challenges is that it's all or nothing very often in delivery, and I would encourage more a consortium type approach, but we'll see. There are lots of things that need to be discussed in that way. Visas, I'll leave to my boss here. Well,
I have no direction around visa. That's at a much higher level. Thank you, Roland. Sorry, do you want to come in, Councillor Seaton?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just going back to the previous discussion about walking and cycling, I just wanted to let people be aware that Fenland is developing and has been developing a walking, cycling and mobility strategy. We go out with our second consultation this month. And whilst, I totally agree with Roland about the prospect of having a cycling and walking alongside the railway line. Of course, that is in the future. We're trying to get this strategy out so it's ready and oven ready for next year. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't see anyone else indicating a desire to speak. I just want to maybe close this discussion down before we move on, and just to come back to Councillor Bovingdon's point, which I appreciate Roland did give some of the answer to. It's this thing about vision. For those who had the pleasure of sitting, like I do, at the board meeting for the leaders, I'm well aware that there was a desire for an articulation of what is the vision, not just of the vision of the mayor, but of the vision of the combined authority. And I would question, when I open to the, as I say, I'm finishing the debate, but he says, what exactly is vision? So I took upon myself to do what I always do. I looked for the definition, and it's the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination or wisdom. Well, I won't immediately say that I think I've got huge wisdom, but I do think I've got imagination. And for me, if wisdom is focusing on what I've always talked about, compassion, cooperation, and delivering for the community, they aren't just values, they are wisdom for me. And when you put them at the heart of public policy, such as transport, when you start thinking not so much about kind of how much we can build, let's start thinking about the priorities of public health and the environment around us. And when you put that into the context of what we're now talking about, kind of life belt economics, for me, that is wisdom. And I'm looking forward to it being taken forward by the combined authority. So thank you. The report recommendations are that the Transport and Infrastructure Committee is recommended to note the November budget and performance monitoring update. We've noted it. It's time to move on. I would now, the next point is 2.2, which is the March Area Transport Study Outline Business Case. Could I now ask Emma White, the Principal Transport Planner, to introduce the report?
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, members. I'm here to present the March Area Transport Study. The recommendations include taking note of the March Area Transport Study Outline Business Case outcomes, and in addition, recommend approval of the drawdown of 1.51 million for the production of the full business case and detailed design. The March Area Transport Study, also known as MATS, was first approved for inclusion in the Transport Programme in March 2018 to establish the issues and find solutions. The study was split into 3 parts, which included Stage 0, an audit and scoping, Stage 1, option testing, and Stage 2, preferred scheme design. The MATS outline business case, also called OBC, has now been completed as part of the commitment of Stage 2. This is built upon the strategic outline business case that was submitted in October 2020. The OBC includes a package of schemes for March, which include the A141 20-foot road traffic signals, A141 Peas Hill roundabout, increasing the size of the roundabout and looking at a roundabout at Hostemore Avenue. It also includes High Street St Peter's Road traffic signal improvements, a mini roundabout in the town centre on Broad Street with 1 lane in each direction, and a development of a northern industrial link road. It is important to note that the OBC considers all the above schemes as a package due to the overall joint benefits that meet the objectives of the study area. To summarise the outline business case, the strategic case demonstrates how the recommended package of MATS improvement schemes fits with the wider public policy objectives and provides the case and the need for change. The economic case demonstrates that the March package offers a high value of money with essential growth, so the benefit cost ratio is at 2.8. The financial case of the OBC demonstrates that the recommended package of schemes is a value for money. The commercial case of the OBC demonstrates that the schemes are commercially viable, and the management case demonstrates that they are all deliverable. During the study, in terms of engagement, regular members' steering group meetings have been held, as well as an online consultation event that was held between May and June in 2020. Further consultation of the schemes is proposed during the next stage of the study. The overall conclusion of the OBC is that there is a compelling case to progress the recommended package of MATS improvement schemes to detailed design and full business case. The schemes proposed as part of the improvement measures meet the objectives, and the benefits clearly outweigh the costs and offer a high value for money. An independent review of the OBC has been undertaken by Steers, and they have signed off the study as per the CPCA's assurance process. It should be noted that the Broad Street highway improvement schemes are closely aligned with the pedestrianisation for Broad Street that is being delivered as part of the successful Future High Streets Fund bid. Also, as part of the MATS study, a package of minor schemes were approved for delivery in September 2020, which included 9 schemes. 7 of these schemes have been completed and the other 2 are earmarked for completion in February 2022. Furthermore, the pedestrian and walking strategy is now being assessed to determine which of the 91 inventions identified by the strategy can be progressed through to preliminary design. This work is due to be completed in January 2022 too. At the September 2021 CPCA board, it was approved that 180,000 from the savings made of the current stage could be utilised for the next stage of the MATS study of detailed design for Broad Street. This is to facilitate the progression of the Future High Street Fund and meet the tight deadline of April 2024. Therefore, in conclusion, the recommendations include taking note of the March Area Transport Study outline business case outcomes, and in addition, recommend approval of the drawdown of 1.51 million for the production of the full business case and detailed design. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Would any members of the committee wishing to ask a question or make a comment, please do so now. Councillor Seaton.
Well, it won't surprise you, Mayor, that obviously I fully support this report, and I hope it does get the backing of my colleagues on the committee. Also, of course, we are totally renovating the March High Street, which is another big project which will totally change the look of March itself, and provide a much better environment, I think, for both the residents and for the business side. So I fully support the recommendations, and thank you very much.
Councillor Thornborough.
Well, I don't really know much about this scheme, but from what I've read, it seems like it's a very critical part of the delivery of the local plan. for Fenland, which was 2014. And we know that with the delivery of the infrastructure really is so necessary for delivery of housing and jobs, but also it's important for the well-being of everybody living in the area. It will really help to make it a much better place to live. And it sounds like the Fenland, as Councillor Seaton was said earlier about the walking and cycling infrastructure plan, is coming on board, which will really support how it works out. So it sounds like a very good thing. Thank you.
Councillor Niche.
Thank you, Mayor. Most of it's been said before, but I do believe this really does link in with their Future High Streets Fund and the major boost that it'll bring to March. I mean, there's a lot of minor deprivation, I would say, in March, and this will actually make a massive difference to them and help support all that area. So I fully support it. Thank you, Mayor.
Does anybody else come in the sense of bonhomie? I would add my own observation that I enjoyed visiting March to the March Community Centre on Friday last week, and I was so impressed by the sense of community and a desire for an improvement. And if transport's part of the solution to making and enhancing a community, then I'm very much appreciative of the work that's been done over the years in enhancing. And hopefully this is the first of many Fenland market towns that will benefit. I think Roland, do you want to come in?
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to say, I think this scheme is a demonstration of collaboration across multiple activities. I think you've mentioned Future High Street Fund, etc., and the importance of Future High Street Fund in it. And it's a demonstration of the combined authority looking at different forms of funding and different types of schemes and bringing them together and delivering better value for money, etc., alongside better improvements for the people. So I'm really proud of what the team have done. On a point of governance and clarity, I'll just look to either Joanna or Daniel, I'm not sure who, but in the paper we've got in the recommendations the figure 1.5 million. We're actually asking for 1.51 million. So I'm just wondering whether an amendment to the recommendation is required at this point, and whether, and it's a technical point, but I don't want it to come back and bite me really. So I wonder whether it needs to be.
Councillor Seaton, do you want to make an amendment?
Yes, I think that's a very valid point, Roland. And yes, if I can put an amendment forward that we change recommendation B from a drawdown of 1.5 million to a 1.51 million.
Okay, I would need a seconder. Councillor Thornberry, you're so enthusiastic, I would take that as a seconder. Can we move to that vote on that amendment? Those in favour of that? That appears to be taken unanimously. So we'll now move on, continuing our debate, and eventually the vote with that. Is that okay? That's all noted legally, and that's how to get another extra few pennies into the pot. Okay. Any further comments, or is that was what you wanted to? And that was it. So as I say, with continuing our debate with the addition of the amendment, and Councillor Schuyler.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say I've had good noises from the County Highways Committee officers with this. It seems to be one of those situations where we're actually working together, and it seems to be working. So just this as a some good noises from County Highways. Thank you.
Thank you for the positive feedback. It's obviously good to know that both the combined authority, district councils, county councils, all working together. It certainly makes things a lot easier if we're all on the same page and going in the same direction. I can't see any other further comments or hands raised. So if we can maybe go to the vote on this, which, as I say, the recommendations are A, which for noting only the March area transport study outline business case outcomes. We've noted it. And then the actual vote is on to recommend that the Combined Authority Board approve the drawdown of a sum of 1.51 million for the production of the full business case and detailed design. Those in favour? And I think that's unanimous. So we'll take that as a given. And how pleased I am for the Combined Authority on that, and indeed, most importantly, the community of March. The next thing is to move on to 2.3, which is the A14260 Neen Parkway Junction 15, to be presented by Nathan Bunting, Programme Coordinator, to introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members. So I'm here to present a paper on the A12260 Junction 15, where there are 3 recommendations. So recommendation A is to recommend to the board to approve the full business case. Recommendation B is to recommend that the board approve an allocation of 3.014 million from its capital reserves to increase the current subject to approval budget from 5 million to the forecast construction cost of 8.014 million. And recommendation C is to recommend to the board the approval of this 8.014 million for construction. Junction 15 is a large grade separated junction serving 2 of Peterborough's busiest strategic roads and provides direct access to a major employment centre. It entered the transport programme in 2017 and a full business case has been completed and is included in Appendix 1. The highway improvements are set out in this paper at 3.1. This includes a circulatory lane gain northbound between junction 33 and 15, the creation of a 3-lane circulatory between A12260 approach and the Bretton Way exit. And in order to accommodate the lane gain, a pedestrian footbridge is to be replaced with a Disability Discrimination Act and LTN 120 compliant footbridge so that there's access for all. This footbridge is currently substandard and heavily used by sustainable modes and provides access to residential areas, the business park and Ferry Meadows. The scheme will also provide environmental and biodiversity mitigations and enhancements to ensure a minimum 10% biodiversity net gain. The scheme offers very high value for money of 7.3 and will improve journey times, increase safety and provide conditions that encourage inward investment in higher value employment sectors across Peterborough, whilst also protecting the natural environment. The cost of construction is 8.014 million. The original allocation was 8 million. This was reduced to 5 million based on the preliminary design estimate, which was a high level cost without site survey information and a number of unknown factors. More detail on this forecast increase can be found in this paper at 3.4. And if approved, construction can begin in February 2022. So that's the paper, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Nathan. Would any members of the committee wishing to ask a question, make a comment, please do so now. Councillor Hiller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you might expect, I absolutely endorse the recommendations to the board, and has already been eloquently expressed. The report is a lengthy report, but it's summarized too, Mr. Mayor. Peterborough has an enviable parkway. There's no suggestion that it doesn't have. It's a new town expansion in the 1970s. Members will be aware, I'm sure. But that parkway was built for traffic levels some 40 odd years ago. Exponentially, the traffic, certainly in conjunction with the growth of the city I'm proud to represent, has increased hugely, and roads wear out. We have to capacity increase our major junctions. We've done several of those in recent years with great success, I have to say. Yes, it's a bit of a pain while it's being done, but the end result is worth that pain, in my opinion. Some might disagree. I certainly don't. This capacity increase isn't just getting more vehicles round a very busy junction. There are a number of other benefits, a number of other knock-on benefits, which the report quite clearly outlines. But as I say, it is a long report, ably created by Milestone, our partners at Peterborough Highway Services. But I think it's interesting just to look at one or two of the stats, if you'll indulge me, Mr. Mayor. I mean, 46,000 vehicles pass through junction 15 on a typical weekday. 13% of those vehicles are HGVs. It gives perhaps some idea of just how busy this junction is. It is a major arterial route between the A47 and the A1260, the Neen Parkway. It is essential that this work is done in my and many others' opinions. And so I really do hope that members here this morning will support these recommendations. With just touching on, if I might, Mr. Mayor, the budget, 8 million, 5 million, 8 million. It was always 8 million in our opinion, and there was a slight anomaly in the way that was interpreted, I think. And what we're being asked to do this morning is to approve the recommendation for the 8 million original budget. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll sign off, but hope members around this morning will support the recommendations. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to come in here? Councillor Thornborough.
I'm really pleased to read and listen about the other improvements for the pedestrians and the public transport, but also for nature, biodiversity, and particularly the disability improvements for people using sustainable travel. And I know the mayor has an environmental, very, very important high-level environmental objectives, and this, I think it would be really interesting to see how this project develops with all of the biodiversity and tree planting that's included. And when this is done, let's actually see what that's like and try and highlight the nature that's been added, because having that extra land included allows for the additional biodiversity. It's good.
I would thank you, Councillor Thornborough. I would just echo that with the benefit of Baroness Brown's Independent Climate Commission. It is, as I sit here now, knowing that I'll be going to COP26 tomorrow, it is an absolute imperative on all of us as leaders, be they the combined authority, the county council, city council, to as we deal with the challenges of more transport, more cars, and how we move around in a connected world, but we must never forget the effect our own actions has on the environment around us. And I'm very, very pleased to see how we have been able to prioritise that. And if some of the additional expenditure, be it that it was always going to be 8 million, if it has come to us because we are making a priority of the environment, then so be it. I'm going to go to Councillor Schuyler, then Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Mayor. I fully admit I don't know what the motivation is, and I would agree with the local members as to its need that this infrastructure be changed. But I just make a point that the objectives, the primary objective says to tackle congestion, support Peterborough's growth agenda, create wider economic benefits, protect and improve the biodiversity, positively impact traffic conditions, and improve road safety. All of those things could obviously be achieved through, say, a tram scheme as well. I just wanted to make the note that, you know, this is Milestone saying this is what we're trying to do by building roads, but we can also achieve those objectives in other mass transit ways. And I don't want to disagree that in this particular case, this particular scheme needs to be done. I just wanted to make that case.
I can see Roland is indicating, and just to remind what I said earlier on, the definition of a vision was the ability to think about a plan for a future with imagination or wisdom. Imagination and the use of trams or very light rail is very much part of the possibility when you talk about the future vision of the combined authority. But I'll let Roland come in with maybe a specific comment about Peterborough. Is that right?
Yeah, I absolutely take the point. But what I would like to say is that this is one part of an overall connectivity strategy that exists within Peterborough. And I'm very proud to be working with Nathan on this project, but also with Peterborough City Council's team, who we collaborate very closely with, and Milestone. This junction doesn't just serve the people of Peterborough. This junction is also a vital link for through traffic that comes through on the key links of the A47 and down to the A1. And congestion here has an impact on the wider pushing traffic in different parts. And Peterborough is not dissimilar to lots of places in so much as it's only got a certain amount of crossings over the river. And this is one of them, or a key point. So it's an element of congestion relief, if you like, but part of an overall strategy that links into a vision that Peterborough are developing at the moment, which I'm very keen to look at this committee at some point being asked to support, which will look at those other challenges of bus rapid transit, or whatever the solution might be as the vision develops. But this is one element of a network solution and an overall, it's a piece of the jigsaw puzzle. What I would say is it's an opportunity. This combined authority is still a young organisation. It's still a growing organisation. And it started off purely developing studies to get things to delivery points. And what we're bringing to this committee today is two very vital schemes at March and at Peterborough that have demonstrated that ability of this organisation to progress through those stages and actually get into the construction of and ultimately the improvement of for the people of those locations. And I would like to say that it's not purely a highway scheme. It has those other benefits to it. It has those other environmental factors to it in an area that in truth I often come across this as a transport person. I'm on my box a little bit, I know, and indulge me if you may. We see schemes that have a regional or even a national significance, and I would say this junction is one of those schemes. And very often it can be the local community that suffers without benefit. And actually this scheme proposes things that benefit the local community as much as the regional national significance that this junction holds. And so I'll step back at that point.
It's a bit of a shame you don't have a vote, to be honest, Roland, but very well said. Councillor Gough, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, actually, I was going to pick up on what some of the points Roland said there, because it seems like a scheme which got a compelling economic case associated with it, but also quite a lot of support from the community. We've heard from the City Council, they're supportive of it. Reading the very long report, I also sort of pick up in here, there's quite a lot of local community support from it. If I'm right, there were no objections relating to the principles of improvements which were received from the public. Is that correct? And no comments from members of the public were received during the consultation period, which is somewhat unusual, but clearly represents what I suspect is a wide level of support. However, in reading the report, there was just one thing which my attention was drawn to, which was the relocation of the footbridge, which seems like it's very sensible, the rationale for that. But the report does talk in a number of places about how that impinges upon a particular number of residents. I didn't know how many that was, it didn't say. But the report also says that those residents will sort of be contacted by letter and sort of given information through the construction period, and that didn't seem to sit very well with me, and I just wanted assurance. But those residents who were not affected by the original footbridge location but now are affected because the footbridge has been relocated, that some form of communication has taken place with those residents already.
I think we have to come back to you on that, Nathan. It's an important point.
Yep, so you're absolutely right. A statutory public consultation has taken place from October to December 2020. Since then, changes have been made to the footbridge design, as you say, and we've been assured that we don't need to go back out to statutory consultation, but we are in the process of making the households near the footbridge aware of the new designs. So there are potentially a few houses that may be able to see the footbridge from their houses. So I don't have all of the information on this. I'd have to go back to the project manager, but we are in the process of going back out with public information, putting letters through people's doors in the vicinity, making sure they're aware of these new footbridge designs.
Councillor Hiller, do you want to come back in? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. So do I. Actually, thank you for that, Nathan, and thank you for the question. It's an interesting question, but I am very close to the ward councillors who are directly affected by this scheme, and I can reassure you, I hope, that the local ward councillors have extensively shared all of these the potential changes and their ability to have the design of the bridge change, which has just been alluded to by Nathan. The ward councillors, and I spoke to the ward councillors last week with this meeting in mind, and they have reassured me, Mr. Mayor, that the by and large, to a great degree, the residents who had the initial thoughts rather than vociferous objections, they were thoughts more than anything, and constructive thoughts have been sated, so that there shouldn't be any issues there, in their opinion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Gough.
Yeah, so thank you for that, because this is always a difficult thing where a project gets changed through the process of consultation. Residents who weren't originally aware that that was the scheme now obviously affected. So I'm very heartened that those conversations have taken place, and it would be it's very good that on a scheme like this, which has such widespread and broad support, that it also has the support at the level of the individual residents who will be most directly affected with it. So I'm very pleased to hear that.
I think that's everybody. Thank you again, Nathan, for the report, extensive as it was. So the Transport and Infrastructure Committee is recommended to A, recommend that the Combined Authority approve the full business case. B, recommend that the Combined Authority Board approve an allocation of 3.014 million from its capital reserves to increase the current subject to approval budget from 5 million to the forecast construction cost of 8 million and 0.14 million, so 8.014 million. And then C, recommend that the Combined Authority Board approve the total of 8.014 million for the construction phase of the project, including the reprofiling of the project budget. Do I have a proposer and a seconder for the recommendations? Well, I'll take Councillor Hiller as the proposer and Councillor Seaton as the seconder. Thank you, councillors. We will now move to the vote. All those in favour? Okay, well, that looks like a unanimous. So as there's been no objections, we have a unanimous vote. We will take the recommendations as carried. You've recorded the outcome of the vote. Thank you. Gosh, would appear to be the end of the meeting almost. Yeah, after this, I've got the date of the next meeting is due to be on the 12th of January 2022. And with that in mind, I declare, oh, sorry, do you want to come in, Councillor Niche? Sorry.
Well, only briefly, Mr. Mayor. If I'm correct, my understanding it's amendments to the last meeting in front of. Yeah, I would like to thank him from Huntingdonshire, but I think also from this committee for all the hard work he's done mainly for Huntingdonshire, I might add. But of course, it's we have to think.
Do you want to share the good news, Mehmet, at the moment? I think that you thank you, Councillor Nish. We obviously do very much appreciate Mehmet and indeed all the team's work. But I think you might be able to give us a little bit of an update, unless you want to hold back a bit.
I don't know what to say. Yes, it is my last week. It is my final week at the Combined Authority. Yeah, it's been a good time working for the Combined Authority. It's been quite an interesting 2 years, I think. With the Combined Authority, obviously working with Roland and the team. Obviously, I've seen the team come on bounds, and some of the projects that we've delivered together has been, to be honest, life-changing for some people. So, I am very proud of what we've been able to achieve. So I will be looking eagerly from a laptop from somewhere, I'm sure, watching to see what's happening in the area. But yeah, good luck, and thank you very much.
And thank you to Councillor Nish for acknowledging the hard work of particularly Mehmet, but all the team. With that, just to note again that the next meeting is due in the new year, 12th of January 2022, and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.
Very keen on light rail and trains.
Yes.
And I said,
Who's that? Is that?
That's Councillor Dinah Pounds.
Yeah, no, she's written to me, I think.
So she's done a paper. Basically, she'd like to